Welcome, amazing listeners. On this episode coming up, I have a phenomenal guest that I'll tell you a little bit about, obviously, when I get into it. But what I wanted to let you know is that this is going to be a two-parter. So the first part is going to be me interviewing her. And then I'm going to release an episode probably Thursday of this week. And what that'll be more of a Q&A because she wanted to ask me some questions around the Enneagram and the Enneagram 1. All right, so here we go. Welcome to Do It For The Gram, an Enneagram podcast, where we do it for the Enneagram, not Instagram. Today we continue our series In Your Skin with an amazing Enneagram 1. I'm bursting with excitement. I have the one, the only, Kat Gordon, the founder and CEO of one of the most amazing, tastiest places on the planet, Muddy's Bake Shop. We're actually there now. Kat, can you please introduce yourself and Muddy's?
Sure. I'm Kat Gordon. As you said, I'm the founder, CEO, chief cake taster, pie baker extraordinaire here at Muddy's Bake Shop. We're a small bakery in Memphis, Tennessee. We have 2 retail locations and a kitchen and specialize in freshly baked home-style treats. So just like your grandma made or you wish your grandma made. And that's our specialty.
Yes, I love my grandma, but I wish she made them as good as Muddy's does. Before we really dive in, I want to let listeners know how this all happened. While I was at my day job, working in an elementary school, a coworker said to me, have you read the Choose Not a One article about the founder of Muddy's? And I said, no, I have not. He said it includes her Enneagram number. So immediately I was excited. I perked up and I said, oh my goodness, I have to have her on the podcast. And so I reached out and amazingly enough, thank you so much for wanting to be on the podcast. I'm super excited right now.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. And as we were talking earlier, I'm excited to learn from you as well, because I don't know that much about the Enneagram. I've taken the test and done a little bit of exploration there. So hoping to pick your brain a little bit as well.
Please. Yes. I think something that was amazing when I was coming in, you were fixing, what's that wall called? Kind of
our community bulletin board.
The community bulletin board. So this was like this is a one thing already. Before we even start,
oh my God, I'm like imagining the visuals right now.
Because I didn't even know, I haven't even met Kat before. This is like the very first time we're in here together, and I look over and I was like, I think that's Kat, but I'm not sure. But way I noticed, she was like organizing everything on the community board, and like she was really picking the different things. It's like, oh, that's probably not longer, it already happened, so I'm gonna take that off. But she was not only moving things, she was organizing them in a beautiful way. And I was like, okay, that's probably Kat. That is probably Kat. She's Enneagram 1. That's probably her. I'll introduce myself. So yeah, that was a small thing I kind of noticed, but it's great. It's great. So
just living it.
So my Enneagram teacher who taught me and certified me, Ginger Lapid Bagda, she says that the Enneagram finds you. You don't find it. So how did the Enneagram find you?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think now. I feel like I've had so many people the last couple of years that I love and respect. I've got a coworker at the East Memphis shop that is really into it. I know she and I have talked about it. My cousin-in-law, Abby. But I'm pretty sure that the first I need to learn more about this introduction to the Enneagram, I think it was through Father Richard Rohr.
Oh.
So I listened to his homilies and read his books. I'm a very big Richard Rohr fan. And I think it was through him, and he wrote the introduction to an Enneagram book.
Yes.
I think that was the first time I heard about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a bunch of books. He is
amazing.
Yes.
Like I kind of want to be his best friend.
Seriously.
Richard, if you're listening, I want to be your best friend. We could like read books and snuggle or something. I don't know.
Seriously. Like it's, oh my goodness. That's awesome. So when the Enneagram found you, how did it impact your life?
I had that feeling when I first took the test. I took it and it was like one of the really legit ones. It took a long time, lots of questions, pretty thorough results. And I took it at probably like 1 or 2 in the morning. You know, I'd heard about it, I'd read about it, but I hadn't really followed up. And I'm not sure what drove me to do that at the middle of the night. But as I'm remembering it, I kind of feel like maybe my husband was out of town, and I have this habit. I've always had a habit of kind of being a night owl and
Mm-hmm.
chewing on things like
Right.
late into the night. And, you know, kind of worrying over things, or sometimes I'll hit my real genius in the middle of the night, you know, sort of working through that in the peace and quiet. But whatever was going on that night, I definitely couldn't sleep. And I was sort of pinging around, you know, probably a little bit of anxiety over something. I don't remember what, but over something. And somehow I just remembered, and through that sort of, you know, rabbit hole of like one thing leads to another thing,
Right.
I found myself in the middle of the night taking the Enneagram test. And then, you know, read about my type, and, you know, was delighted and horrified,
Right.
and was kind of like, it makes sense that I'm the kind of person who's up doing this at 1 a.m.
Right.
And then, yeah, I think the more I've kind of learned about it and leaned into it a little bit, it's just been really eye-opening to sort of see how that plays out. But then also, you know, as a manager,
Right.
and, you know, I have 50 people on my team, and they're really, you know, really diverse people and creative people. And it's so helpful for me, I think, with the more I learn about the Enneagram, to really remember how much, you know, each of us are here for a different reason. And each of us are doing what we're doing for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it looks the same on the surface, but a lot of the time it's different underneath.
Right.
And that's been really helpful for me as a manager and a leader, not just personally.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think it's super amazing that you're Enneagram 1 and like you own like a bakery, like a place where like details are important.
Yes.
From not only like what goes into the ingredients to behind the scenes, but also to the presentation, and also to how you communicate to customers and everything that you do. So I think that's absolutely amazing. Like those detailed things are super important, and I love that it's a blend of it that you're managing.
Thanks. And I feel like it's like a one within a one. I mean, even we were talking today at our manager meeting about differentiation and, you know, how do we train staff on, you know, how are we different than competitors, and like not using words like, you know, good and bad, but you know, somebody can be doing something different than us, and it doesn't make it good or bad. But then our own product, the attention to detail, and that actually part of our brand is the home style.
Right.
So it's like you have to be really good at those details in order to do casual on purpose.
Right.
You know, so that the inconsistencies, the craftsmanship, you know, everything is made by hand by individuals.
Does your workplace
so
stink
don't want everything
because the
to look
culture sucks?
identical.
Right.
Are you tired
And
of
how do you
tolerating
kind of
people
nail that
and wish you could
place
all work
of,
together
it
cohesively?
needs to
Does
look
the mere idea
unique and
of going
imperfect,
into
but
work
perfectly
give you
imperfect?
anxiety?
Wow.
If you said yes
And
to
that
any
takes
one of
some
these,
effort.
you
And
should
it's
probably
like,
quit
I'm
your
thinking
job.
today, I'm like,
But since you're
man,
not going
that
to
is
quit
a
your
one within a
job, you
one
should
within a
contact
one.
Kaizen
Yes.
Careers.
That
At Kaizen
probably
Careers,
drives some
we
people
are
crazy.
all about improving workplace
And it's
performance.
pretty great.
We use a unique
But I think
tool
that's what
called the
makes
Enneagram.
money so
The
amazing at the
Enneagram
same
helps
time.
individuals and organizations become more self-aware. That self-awareness lends into helping organizations with communication, conflict management, and leadership development, ultimately turning self-awareness into self-mastery and creating healthy workplace cultures so you can improve your services and bottom lines. Contact Kaizen Careers at KaizenCareers.com or Milton at KaizenCareers.com, or give us a call at 901-334-1644.
So you use so many words that like ones typically would use. I love it though, because it's I would say it's on the path to definitely like growth, where you talked about not referring to things as good and bad, because sometimes ones can get stuck in the thought of either right and wrong, good and bad, black and white type of deal, where it's not, where there's gray and there's, like you said, difference or differentiation, which I think is amazing, because for you to say that, that's huge. From coming from the manager who's a one, that's huge. So that means that you've done some personal inner work to understand that. And then you said perfectly imperfect too. So that's like, because a lot of times ones want perfection, you know, like it's the ideal thought of perfection. And so it's cool that in the imperfection to be perfect, it just like this beautiful little blend here.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure sometimes aggravating where it's like, I'm sorry, this needs to be a little more imperfect, but like in this very specific way. Or like, this is imperfect and not in the good way.
Right.
Like we gotta tighten this up, but not too tight.
I love it. I love it. And this is another one thing that I saw too. So I was reading an article and I pulled this part that says Muddy's mission was then developed through their mission states to make Memphis a happier place by creating outstanding experiences and delicious food, being kind to everyone we meet, and doing the right thing. So that last part, I was like, ooh, doing the right thing, because it's so important to you. Tell me why, and tell me how, like, inside doing the right thing, why that's so important to, like, our community, to you.
That is a big question.
I know.
I think because that's the whole ballgame. Like, if you're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, then it still is the wrong thing. But on the other side, it's like if you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. So it's why we have both a mission and a set of guiding values.
Okay.
Because it is important what we do. It's also important how we do it. And, you know, I'm very aware. I've always been a little self-conscious about the verbiage of that in our mission, because I think it could so easily be misunderstood.
Right.
Or sound, you know, like, well, who are you to say what's the right thing
right,
or what isn't?
Yeah.
But, you know, I kind of like, well, it's my business, so we can say, we don't have to say that it's what's right for us is what's right for everybody, but we should be consistent if we have said that something is right, you know, in our organization, in how we're going to do something, then we also need to be willing to stand by it and be upfront about it. And I think that that's the kind of thing that shows up, take something super mundane in the business world, but is a possibly everyday occurrence. You know, think about the last time you tried to return something or, you know, give feedback to a store that you visited, because let's face it, not everybody gets it right all the time.
True.
Like, everyone makes mistakes. You know, it'd be so easy to have, to get into a legalistic battle with your customer about, you know, well, did you store it correctly? You know, you misunderstood what the serving instructions were, or, you know, didn't read the menu. Like, it says right here, you know, this is what you ordered, and here's the thing that is. And that might be right in the sense of, yes, factually, that is what happened. The customer made a mistake. But I think by saying something like doing the right thing, inherently, if we've done a good job hiring and training and really filling our place with both customers and staff that have the desire to buy into a mission, like making Memphis a happier place, then inevitably the right thing is going to feel like, well, you do what's in the best interest of the customer. And having something where it's like, yeah, we're not going to have a whole huge, you know, the return policy is, hey, employee, use your best judgment to do what the customer needs to be done. I think that's a great example where doing the right thing, like, that might not seem super sexy in the moment, but it's really important and helps us from, like, over correcting or over standardizing. Like, okay, well, how exactly do you solve this problem? Well, do the right thing. What do you think that is? You're probably right.
And so I think that reminds me of, and I'm probably going to mess up this phrase, but it's doing the right thing over doing what's right. I think, you know, and I think what they mean is, like, what you exactly are saying is, and that's tricky. It's like, you're not doing the wrong thing, but it's like, sometimes what you were saying, looking here at this guideline says that you shouldn't do X, Y, Z.
That's our policy.
Right. And like, so that's not the right thing if you want them to return as a customer, or just for them in their relationship. And so doing that, I think, has been like a huge thing. I think that's super important.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's inviting ourselves to wade into that gray area that involves using best judgment, and, like, maybe isn't going to be the same. You know, so you, the customer, you know, depending on who you get, you actually might, because there's not a standard, it is going to be a little bit depending on, well, somebody might solve the problem differently than somebody else. But what you can believe is that they're all going to do their best to solve that problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just kind of like, well, it says in the book that here's the only thing I can offer you. Which, you know, at the end of the day, just isn't that helpful. One of the things we actually ask in our job description or in our interviews for customer service staff, we ask the question, and like, man, some people are like deer in headlights. Like, wait, what? Is this a trick? Is there a trap? We ask, you know, have you ever bent or broken a rule to get the customer what they need?
And I think,
what's the right thing?
Yes. So I think a deer in the headlights too, because if they've applied to other jobs, I remember I applied to Best Buy, and one of my mentors said, just be completely honest. That's the thing to do. Those tests, those online tests that you take will kick your application straight out. I'm like, well, this is the truth. And that's not what they want, which is a whole nother problem in itself. But I think that's great.
It's taken out the human judgment piece because it's just what's correct, right, etc. It has a very black and white definition versus like if you sat down with a real person, the answer you gave probably actually would have been that real person could use their good judgment. Oh yeah, customer focused guy. We're gonna get him in here.
Yep. Okay. Good. A lot of one words going around here. It's good. No, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's good. So when you read about did you read about the Inner Critic?
Oh my gosh.
Can you tell me?
Okay, my Inner Critic has a name.
Oh, tell me about it.
That's probably really unhealthy that I've like
No, I don't think it is. I think it's good that you have a name to your Inner Critic as a one. And anyone's listening, I think it's super important to have a name. I know one of the clients I work with, I had my client actually draw their Inner Critic.
Really?
Yes. And it was powerful to see what his Inner Critic looked like.
Wow.
Because it helped me to understand what's kind of going on inside. And so for you to name it is really good because when you name it, you gain a little bit more control, a little bit more power over it so it doesn't...
Keep her in the passenger side.
Exactly. So it's like, you're not driving this car.
Stay over there, Brenda.
Brenda, you're in the car, but you're not driving. So can you tell me a little bit about... Is it Brenda?
Oh, they're not Brenda. When I read about the Inner Critic, I mean, that was the thing. I was like... Oh, I know that this is describing Brenda, like my pal Brenda. It's lived with me my whole life.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's fascinating to think about. I'm trying to think what would happen if I drew Brenda. My overactive imagination right now is envisioning like a horror movie style. Like, oh my God, if I draw her, she'll start like crawling off of the page and be real.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that Inner Critic, Brenda is sometimes super helpful.
Okay.
I think it's just that when she's in the passenger seat or in the back of the car as an occasional voice,
right.
She probably does have some nice things to say. She just frequently doesn't say it in a very nice way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have really had to learn that if I let her take the wheel, things go off the rails very quickly. I feel like Brenda is usually right. She's just much more narrower.
Right.
Much more narrower. That's terrible English. She has a narrower focus. So she may be right about the specific and the small picture, but she's not taking in the bigger picture.
Right.
She's not as forgiving or compassionate, of me or honestly others. I feel like it's the Inner Critic is much the same voice that's pointing out flaws in others as well. So it's just like, I think it's like the customer example. In some ways she might be accurate,
correct,
but not helpful.
Wow. No, that's good. That's really good.
So, that reading about the Inner Critic was really helpful to kind of, flesh out a little bit of what is probably going on with that voice. It was very helpful.
Yeah. I have so much, like when I learned about the one in the Inner Critic, I have so much compassion and empathy for ones now that I know that happens. Because I've seen ones where they're not healthy. And it can be tough. It can be tough to be around.
You can help to keep this podcast going by supporting us on Patreon.com. Patreon.com is a site where you can support content providers. Podcasts are free to listeners, but not free for creators. It actually costs money and definitely time to produce consistent and weekly podcasts. I podcast because I want to reach people and change our community through the Enneagram. If you want to help in that by supporting me, you can go to patreon.com/doitforthegram. That is patreon.com/doitforthegram.
So what has helped you to manage your inner critic, Brenda? What has helped you kind of manage or be like, okay, Brenda, you good in the side and the back, not the driver's seat?
I think, again, sort of in my role as a business owner and a manager, remembering that other people can hear her. And I don't mean literally. I'm not talking about something crazy. But recognizing that when Brenda's voice is really loud to me and in my head, that is inevitably coming out in ways that other people can experience her. So if I've let her take the wheel, I'm actually going to be a little more short-tempered with other people. There will, even if I'm saying all the right things, there's probably going to be a tone or a tension that is either in my body language or in my voice or in my facial expression. You know, I'm probably making what my brother calls the badger face like a little more often, and it's because I'm probably like using up some of my energy to combat Brenda and like deal with that. But recognizing that the people around me might actually misinterpret that as I'm irritated with them. And with their performance.
Yes.
And so really thinking about that inner critic is something that, okay, that's not just the battle that is happening inside and internal. People can see signals of that. And people are looking, you know, and when you have employees or really anyone who, depending on the role that you occupy. So, you know, as a teacher, you have role power, you know, people aren't like, oh, no, Melvin's a super great guy. Oh, also my teacher. It's like, no, this is my teacher.
Great.
Recognizing that for them and their story, what you're doing is filtered through their experience. And so, of course, for all of us, like whatever's happening is all about us.
Right.
And that was a really big aha. It's like, okay, it is important for me to deal with and learn to live comfortably with Brenda, but also not let that battle leak out. So if I feel like it's starting to get a little bit loud or a little bit out of control, that it's not selfish for me to spend a little time working with that, because it's going to save me from some cleanup later, some damage control, people that I care about.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that was powerful. Like that was so good to hear one say that. That was powerful, seriously. And so I want to stay here in the inner critic a little bit, because I know a lot of ones like listen and they are, you know, struggling, battling, working with, you know, everything with their inner critic. So part of your story I read, as an entrepreneur, you had like a rough start. Some things happened.
Haven't we all?
Right. And so, can you remember what the inner critic did for you at that point? Because you also said it was helpful at times. It can be helpful, you know, because it can be accurate. It can point out things like, ooh, something needs to be fixed, something needs to be right. You know, it's not like just something bad. It's like, it can be very helpful and accurate and help you. So, in this time when you were really like starting the business, how did the inner critic help?
The inner critic has never allowed my ego too much space in the room. Which I think is, as a manager and a business owner, maybe the best role that the inner critic might play, because starting the business, but also continuing the business, it's really tough. You know, you can't expect the people that are getting their paycheck from you to always give you unfiltered feedback.
Right.
You know, I like to think that we've done a really good job of asking for feedback and modeling that and teaching how to do that. And, you know, I'm blessed with coworkers, I mean, from the very beginning, who would tell me some things that I needed to hear, not just what I wanted to hear.
Right.
But at the same time, it would be total folly to think that they're giving me the full, unfiltered version of that, because at the end of the day, I'm their boss.
Right.
And what the inner critic has done is allowed me to not just always think like, oh, I'm not hearing too much criticism from my team. I must be doing a really amazing job. Or like, oh, everyone that works for me laughs at my jokes. I'm obviously hilarious. And you know, that happens. And we've even, I think it's parodied even on some TV shows. I mean, people in a position of any power, even at like a small little bakery, it would be so easy for us to think that like, confuse the power that we have that's associated with our role with actually doing a great job all the time.
Okay.
So the inner critic is a fantastic foil to the inherent ego that can come with running a business, and somewhat successfully. I think specifically when you asked about the very beginning, I don't know how helpful she was really early on.
Right.
Other than simply reminding me what I already knew, which was that I had no professional experience or educational experience that would indicate that I would be good at this.
Right. Okay.
But that wasn't a secret. That was, like, an English lit / art history major, failed real estate agent. Like, yeah, obviously, go start a business. What? I mean, no, that doesn't make sense on paper. It doesn't make sense when you say it out loud. So yeah, I'm not totally sure what the inner critic had to offer that early, but she was definitely still there.
Still there.
Still
reminding
always
you.
There. Yeah.
Okay, so when before we get to that, I have another question, but I have so many. So what would you say the best part about being an Enneagram 1 from the knowledge you have of it?
I think that maybe the best part, it's so, isn't it just everything where it's like the best and the worst are actually the same?
Yes.
But I think that the best part is I love to learn. I really love learning new things.
Right.
And I wasn't always the best in school, but I think the aspect of the one that is constantly seeking better and wanting to do better, like, and not just make everybody else do better, but actually do better and be better. I think I connect that really strongly with that love of learning. I think that part of the reason I love discovering new books and learning new things is that I am driven to be better, to be a better person and a better manager, and just do better with whatever it is I'm doing. And yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts about myself is that I really love learning, and I think those two are just inherently connected. Specifically as a business owner, I really think that the one is so mission driven.
Yeah.
And not the same as goal driven. Yeah, because those are different.
Break it down, yes.
And I certainly, I love achieving a good goal, and I love it when a plan comes together.
So different between a 3 and a 1. Go ahead.
But yeah, and that's, and the 3 when I did my scoring is my second highest score, and so parts of like I empathize real hard with a 3, but yeah, I think that key difference though is it's not the achieving that is the part that's so important to me. And as a business owner, that gets me in trouble sometimes where it's like, I probably should care about the money part a little bit more because it's really important to keep the business going. But that idea of creating or helping be a part of something that is inherently bigger and better than wherever we are. And the vision to see that, you could in some part contribute to something bigger and better really just hits me just straight in the gut. And I think is the aspect of, the oneness that probably kept it going through that first couple of years. Because if this was just a bakery to me, I would have given up, like, real quick. I probably wouldn't have even done it. I would have been like, that does not make sense on paper at all, because I'm a relatively logical person. I'm also a typical eldest child, like, not super risk taker, like, ooh, let's take care of your family and, like, do all this stuff. But yeah, when I look back at the last 11 years, I think through the really hard stuff and through the not knowing and, who likes feeling incompetent at things? Like, no one enjoys that.
Yeah. It's one of my struggles.
That sense of the ideal and the mission think is just the driver that keeps it going. So that was just an aha. Reading
Right.
that about a one, I was just like, that's me. Like, that's my story. Yeah. That's my story with the business. That's my story looking forward in the business, is this constant, like, how do we make something really, really special? That's not just checking something off of a to-do list, but like really making something better than it is today. Yeah.
And better for people.
Yeah.
An experience. Yeah. Like it's.
Yeah. That we can share and like other people can be like, oh yes, like this is my place.
Yeah.
And you know, not, obviously it's important that the food be good, but like not just because the food is good.
Right. Which the food is so good.
It really is.
It is so good. Oh my goodness.
I keep waiting to get sick. I'm just going to like interject this.
Go,
like,
do it.
I feel like
do it.
Growing up, you know, everybody like had retail jobs and food jobs and people being like, oh, once you've worked in a place with food for like a month, you're sick of everything. I am still waiting. I was like, this will cure if nothing else, this will cure my sweet tooth.
Right.
Because I'll just get sick of it. And it is a dozen years later, and I'm just like, oh, hell yeah, I want those chocolate chip cookies.
Yes. So there's only two places I go because I've tried to cut sugar out of my diet. It doesn't work too well. There's two places I go. So when I release an episode and I have like I hit like a new goal or a new amount of people, I come to Muddy's to
celebrate.
Yes. This is where I come. Yeah. And so whenever I get like, ooh, a new high, I'm going there to celebrate. So that's how, I mean, like, I might buy, like, quite a few at that one time. I may super celebrate, but that's what I do. I come here. Like, if I'm going to get, like, a sugar or, you know, fix, like, have some sugar, like, sweet, like, something amazing to celebrate, I come to Muddy's.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so what you just said, I feel like embodies exactly what we're trying in many ways to do.
Right.
So even just talking about, like, selling style, like, that's great that you're trying to reduce your sugar intake.
Right.
I'm an Episcopalian, so it's like, ooh, moderation. Just in everything, do everything, just do it in moderation.
Right.
And, you know, thinking about like the product, like I don't want this to be a product that you're just like, oh, just slam some stuff every single day and like, oh, it's just like, no, this isn't your breakfast cereal. Like this is an indulgence, and it needs to be worth it when you hit this big thing that's important to you, that you're going to come in and say, oh, this is my splurge. Then, man, that bite better be so delicious that is equivalent with the thing that you're celebrating. That's so cool.
Yes. Pucker up.
Oh, yes!
Oh, my goodness.
It's one of my favorites.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
Big citrus fan.
Oh, yes. Okay, all right, I'm gonna keep going. Right. Oh my goodness, that's all on my mind.
I knew I liked you.
Oh my goodness, yes. So what would you say is people misunderstand about ones the most?
I kind of think that maybe the biggest misunderstanding, I always am a little bit worried that the people around me think that I'm criticizing them as harshly as I'm criticizing me or what I'm working on. So I've really worked for a few years on trying to be a little more deliberate with how I criticize myself out loud in front of others. Again, because it'd be so easy for them to think like, oh God, is that how she talks about me? Like, and I'm sure in a lot of ways we've all been there where it's just like, yeah, you would never ever say to an employee what you say to yourself.
Right.
But I do think that that's probably a misunderstanding. And you know, kind of getting back to that, wanting, you know, the ideal and wanting things to be better and the mission driven. I think a common misunderstanding could be that as passionate as I am about that, and as much as I want that to be better, I would never want somebody to feel like I'm not celebrating them, like I'm not expecting them to have the same drive I have or care as much as I do about the thing I care about. Like I'm sure they care about their own things, but I do think that that's something. I know myself as a one, like I can probably get really focused and driven on the better on my thing, and I just think it's easy for people to see that and assume that that's about them or about everything else. And yeah, it's really not about being hypercritical of others. It's, you know, I want to be better.
Yeah, I think I think you hit the nail on the head. That's perfect. And I think That's a huge misunderstanding people have with ones. I think also at times when ones aren't healthy, it can be.
Yes.
Right. It can,
yes.
Yeah. It can be where it is judgmental, but when they're healthy, and a lot of times it's not necessarily directed at you or that person. It's more wanting things to be better, and they're not trying to make anyone feel like in a bad way. And I know that, like, that is one thing ones definitely don't want. Like, it hurts them to hurt someone else. Like, truly, it's like, oh my goodness, I hurt someone.
Right, that like messes up the utopia that we're trying to build in the first place.
Yes, does the exact opposite. So I understand. So ones go to 7 in growth, the upside of 7s, where they're a little bit more relaxed, they're way more fun, and just a host of things that are like jive and like fun. So what are some things, or when do you see yourself going towards a 7 and using some of the 7ness, leaning into that healthy 7ness?
I think having a bakery.
Yes, I mean
in the first place.
Okay, so when I first it's so fun. So I come back here, like the whole place is decorated in such a fun, unique way. It's like warm, but it's like a warm energy, in a sense. Like I can't even describe it, but it's just like I feel like my mind's clear, but I'm warm and I feel like comfortable at the same time. So
yes, and I think this is so funny when. Gosh, I was in college and I had no idea what I wanted to do after college. And you get to that point where it's just like if you're anywhere near graduation, any adult in your life is like, oh, what are you going to do? And you're just like, I have to go to the bathroom. I will catch up later.
Seriously.
Anything to avoid that conversation. But I remember I sent out an email to just a bunch of people that I felt like some friends and family that these are the people who know me well.
Right.
And I asked the question, like, when you close your eyes and envision me in any sort of career, what am I doing? Help. And what was fascinating was I got most of the responses were something like a little bookshop, a little gift shop, a little bakery, a little food. There was a lot around little, small business and some sort of personal hospitality kind of things, which I immediately ignored because I was like, oh, clearly all my friends want me to be poor. Thanks a lot, y'all. And so then proceeded to ignore all of the advice. But what stood out was then there were a couple of outliers. It was like attorney. So the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
And looking back and looking through the lens of the Enneagram stuff and what I've learned, I really think ultimately I made the right call. I could, and I feel like I'm going to offend just a ton of attorneys right now, and that is not my intention. But I think with some patience, that could be something like some of my skills and motivations could certainly latch onto that.
Yes.
And do that.
I agree. Yes. 100%. I 100% agree with you. 100%.
I think I wouldn't, I could probably live out some of my oneness, in the system and, fighting for some justice with the law, building that better future for everybody. I mean, yes. However, I think that would have been so much harder for me to pull in the parts, so the 7ness that I need in order to stay kind of balanced. Right. So I think it's been the greatest luck in the world that I picked a product that by definition has to remind me to okay, chill out a little bit. Right. You're starting to take it way too seriously, or you're starting to get into a place where you're anxious about training or hiring or all the things that are part of running a business. The very nature of our brand and the product pulls me back and is even if just for the customer's sake in this moment, you need to have a little fun. Right. You need to sprinkle some cupcakes right now. Even if right now there's a million other things going on and I kind of just need to do it for a show. Right. The fact that that's there, it's just the greatest gift in the whole world to me, to not go full on martyr one. Right. Where it's just a bundle of exhaustion and like, why aren't we at this ideal thing yet?
Oh.
So yeah, I think the Muddies is my 7.
Oh, yes.
The outward facing part of Muddies is my 7.
I love that. No, yeah. I love that. I love everything you just said. I completely agree and love it, because like you said, understanding that going the route of being here as a manager, it has stretched you in a whole lot of different ways, and what you want to present to customers constantly pulls you to be not exactly so hard into the 1, but into the 7, is because it's hospitality as well. It's customer service.
It forces the focus on other people and like reminds you that like, oh yeah, other people can see your face right now. Like, get that badger face out of here. Right. Like, come on.
Whereas an attorney, the badger face would have been welcomed almost. Right. It's like, oh yeah, she's got the badger face. She's on point. She's serious right now. And I don't think it would have helped you grow as much as you've grown. Like, hearing you speak as a 1 is like incredible.
Yeah.
Because there's so much growth work that has been done.
Dang.
Like, I'm serious. Like, it's absolutely amazing. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, looking back, I'm like, really, it's like between the Enneagram stuff and I've done like the Myers-Briggs as well. I'm recognizing like, yeah, if I were a really healthy person, I guess in every other way, maybe I could manage to do the attorney piece.
Right.
But as an introverted 1, it's like, boy, do I need this particular outlet to force me. Like, I can't just retreat into the introverted idealism. Okay. I've got to get out with like the real people in the mess sometimes.
Oh my goodness, yes. If you had one piece of advice for Enneagram 1s or type 1s, what would you say to them?
One piece of advice. Well, okay, we kind of have been talking about it, but I would say have fun. Like, put that on the list of stuff, and don't forget it, because I think a lot of the stuff that we end up striving for, we are striving for because either it started out as fun or something like that. But I think that sometimes there's a guilt maybe around it. Like, it shouldn't be fun. If it's really meaningful and it's really important, then like it'll feel really serious and weighty and important. And it can be really easy to take on way too much and, feel so weighed down by, stuff that honestly, like, no one else even put on you. Like, it's like you picked that up. And the thing is, like, the world does need you to pull that. It is important. So I don't want to minimize, like, I think most of us, like, we pick something up and we pick up that mission because it's important.
Right.
So don't put it down. But intentionally inject a little bit of lightness and find the parts of it that are fun for you. And this is the thing that, I started out, I'm in a small business roundtable, and it was so lovely. Our first in-person meeting of the year this year, the woman who was hosting, we take turns hosting, and she had us all kind of set an intention for the year. And it was so great because she actually pushed me a little bit, because I think mine, first of all, set 3, which is, of course, like, way overreaching. And all of them were about, how I wanted to, like, do better, be better, whatever. Right. And my lovely friend Sharon just gently pushed a little bit and was just like, well, first of all, you're supposed to do 1. So, like, don't do 3, do 1. But kind of held up the mirror a little bit. And so I changed mine. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need anything I don't need that on a list. Like, any of those things to be better, do better. I don't need on a list because I'm going to do it anyway.
True.
But have fun. It's like, yeah, that's the part that's super important that I will completely forget if I'm not paying attention to it on purpose. So, yeah, I would say fellow 1s, just keep your mission and keep your drive and idealism, but remember to have fun.
Yeah. So I think that's perfect. My clients who are ones, one thing I encourage them to do is to plan a silly day, or like even if it's like every 2 weeks or every week or how many they can like kind of get in, but just a silly day or a silly amount of hours, just to like something just to go have fun, like because the mission is very mission focused, like you said, but adding in that fun, injecting that fun into what they do and that silliness. It just makes the whole world just so much better. It's like, oh my goodness, okay, I was missing out. And like, it's so much, you can impact so many people with even in the silliness. I find ones when they are being silly and having fun, they're clever. Like, I feel like their humor is super clever. Like, whatever they say, it's like this really just clever type of humor. And I find it extremely funny. Extremely funny. All right. Oh my goodness. We'll have
This
to
is so much fun.
Yes, we'll have to do like another interview too or something. Oh my goodness. When I do like Enneagram in business or something like that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So before we wrap up, can you let the audience know how they can find Muddies and all of the wonderful, tastiest treats in the world?
Yes. So, of course, visit our website, muddiesbakeshop.com. That's MUDDYSBAKESHOP.com. You can find our addresses, but we have a store in Midtown and a store in East Memphis. So that one's the original one, the wee little shop in the shopping center. And occasionally you can visit our kitchen on Broad Avenue. In fact, I highly recommend that one. If you can come take a kitchen tour, we post those on our website as well. But, as someone who is a maker and values the full spectrum of the process and really going deep, it's a great opportunity to come in and actually see us at work and learn a little bit about the behind the scenes. So check us out there. And of course we have, Instagram, Facebook. I'm learning how to use Instagram stories. And it's like watching a 90-year-old woman learn how to use a phone. I mean, but it's fun. And boy, is it like,
it's so
what is this?
Much. And they keep adding features.
Yeah.
I'm also in it. I'm in the same boat learning Instagram and like,
I'm an analog kind of gal for the most part, so this has been a fun journey. So I'm sure if you want to see some like there have definitely been a few things where it's like, oh, that posted, haha, I guess that's out there. Like, so yeah, if you're into Instagram vapors, come and check us out at Muddies Bake Shop.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you
for allowing me time to interview. This is great. This is absolutely great.
Yes.
I'm super excited. So that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, subscribe, and share. That is rate, which helps others find the show. Subscribe, did you get the latest and greatest episodes? And share if you feel this information can benefit someone you know. If you need personal life coaching or career coaching that is around the Enneagram, I do that. And you can go to kaizencareers.com. That's kaizencareers.com, KAIZENCAREERS.com, or contact me at Milton at kaizencareers.com, and that number is 901-334-1644. Also, if you would like to be a patron supporter, like Shay and the different patron supporters I have, you can go to patreon.com/doitforthegram. The Patreon community has more access to exclusive content, merchandise, and input on the podcast. And if you're in the Memphis area, I'm developing a community around the Enneagram, and it's called Enneagram 901. You can sign up on the Facebook page, and we're going to start having different events because I definitely want to build a community around the Enneagram and help a lot of different people. So thank you so much for listening. And if you're a one and you're letting that inner critic start to take over like Brenda, make sure you put her in the side seat and do it for the gram, the Enneagram, of course. See you soon.